Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be making a brand new Fluke mold, the proper way, not how I made it back in 2016 I think. I'm going to be working on this foam board using some overpriced plasticine, this paper pattern as a guideline, and make sure it's symmetrical if you're planning on making one yourself. Some baby oil, my Arteza sculpting tools, affiliate link below. I am also wearing some latex-free gloves to avoid fingerprints and nail marks on my clay. Let's start with the sculpting. It took me a few days and lots of binge watching random shows on Netflix, so the design I'm making is quite similar to something I tried out a few years ago, and it's kind of inspired by an octopus or a squid or something like that. And here's the finished sculpt. The next step was cutting up some of the foam board to build walls around the Fluke. I've always had troubles with this part because everyone uses wood and I don't have wood or power tools, so foam board works just fine. I used some hot glue to stick them onto the board and made sure to fill all the gaps. The next day it was time for plaster. So here's my progress footage, but if you're doing this, it's best to make one big batch of plaster and pour it all at once. Well, as you can tell, I always break the rules cause I'm a little rebel and had other reasons for doing it this way. But do as I say, not as I do. I also added these strips of plaster reinforcement mesh and left it all to dry. Then wait. That's a whole other video, so subscribe if you want to see it. Once the mold was dry, my boyfriend helped me flip it over and we placed it on this blanket to level it out. Then it was time to carefully remove the plasticine. So satisfying. I also made sure to clean out any plasticine leftovers from the mold. Unfortunately, I ended up with some tiny cracks and holes, but don't worry, I'm gonna fix it. I took some UV resin, and this thing is quite pricey, but here's why I used it. Resin is a good way to strengthen plaster. UV resin cures under a UV lamp in a minute or so. You have full control over where it goes. If I were to use epoxy resin, it could move around more while curing and end up in random places, getting rid of some of my details from the sculpture. So I simply used a brush and glazed the mold with the resin and filled in the small holes and cracks with it. It's also going to make my mold shiny, which is something I want for the type of the silicone I'm going to be using. Remember that plaster is porous and will absorb some of the resin, so work quick. I made this mold back in January before I had my wonderful mica powders from Arteza, so I'm using some random eyeshadows. Don't take this part too seriously though, as it's just me checking the mold by making a silicone sample. So for this sample, I'm just using all-purpose silicone because it's the cheapest one and it's quite easy to work with. I mixed it in with some acrylic paint and more eyeshadow and slowly filled in the mold, starting with the smallest details. I brushed other pigments on the mold later on. And here's another reason for using resin. Makes the cleanup so much easier. Time for silicone. Now I should have gone with red on the bottom, but oh well, that's what samples are for, I suppose, to make mistakes. I brushed on more of the copper shadow on the bottom of the silicone instead. Now it's time to peel. Shiny mold will make the peeling process so much easier for you. And this is how the sample turned out. Honestly, I think it looks gross, but at least the shapes look fine. If you have any color ideas for this fluke, then let me know and subscribe to see what this mold will be used for. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye!